Hey, it's Andrew here. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about Social Security changes, the next two stimulus packages, and daily news updates as well. President Biden has formally announced his budget for next year, and it does include some stimulus as well as increased Social Security funding. So let's discuss the details in this video. But before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so if you could do me a huge favor, click on the link that's in the description of this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Now, I want to point out a couple of things first. This budget is simply a proposal which lays the framework for Congress to then go ahead and approve next year's budget. So some things will be taken out and some things will be added. It does include more stimulus for families, and it does include increases in Social Security funding. So we have good news on Social Security, and also we have some bad news. So we're going to get into that in this video. But first, can Democrats actually get this done, and can Congress bring this plan to fruition? Let's take a look, see what Bernie Sanders had to say. He's going to talk about the possibility of using budget reconciliation, which does not require a single Republican vote, as well as Democrats like Joe Manchin who might actually stand in the way of getting this done.
If you focus just on 50 votes on Democrats, if that's the expectation, I'm not saying that that's your game plan, but if that's what you think is probably going to happen, there's still an issue of party unity that might be difficult and more difficult with infrastructure than with COVID relief. Progressives such as yourself want to go big. There are more centrist Democrats, Joe Manchin, for example, who has proved himself to be, in a real position of power, worried about cost. Manchin says it's incredibly important to him to make this bill bipartisan. Your committee is going to play a key role in the process. Are you confident every Senate Democrat is going to support this bill when it comes time to vote, including Manchin?
Well, you'll have to talk to Mr. Manchin, but I think that at the end of the day, you got 50 Democrats in the caucus. Any one of them can say, I'm not supporting this. But we all understand that in this unprecedented moment in American history, when we have gone through the worst year in the modern history of this country, with so many people dying and getting sick and our economy tanking, that we have got to work with the president on an agenda that speaks to the needs of the working class and the middle class and low-income people who have, for so many years, really had their needs ignored. So I am confident. Look, there are differences of opinion. Every one of the Democrats has a different point of view. But at the end of the day, I think Chuck Schumer has been doing a good job trying to bring people together to say, you know what, the future of America is at stake. The future of American democracy is at stake. Because so many people have reached the conclusion the government doesn't address their needs. Working people are working longer hours for low wages. We have got to speak to that pain that's out there. And if your question is, do I think we're going to come together to do it? Yes, I do.
Now, Bernie Sanders pointing out the fact that senators like Joe Manchin could stand in the way of getting these next two stimulus packages done and even getting Social Security changes done as well. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. He said that Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden have been doing a good job of bringing the Democratic Party together, and he's optimistic that these stimulus packages will get done. And not only does he want to get these stimulus packages done, he wants to get Social Security changes as well as expanding Medicare. He was recently on Twitter saying that nearly half of all seniors over the age of 75 have hearing loss. Yet in America today, 75% of seniors who need hearing aids don't have one. And that's because it is too expensive, and it's time that we expand Medicare to cover hearing aids, dental care, and vision care as well. So guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. Now the good news is, in President Biden's budget proposal, he did include the expansion of Medicare. So he did include the expansion of Medicare to lowering the age to age 60 to qualify, as well as covering hearing, vision, and dental care as well. Now, whether or not this will come to fruition really depends on Congress. Now, Bernie Sanders continues to argue that if we can spend half of our budget on military spending, we should be able to spend more on Medicare, more on Social Security benefits, and more on the middle class in general. And if you look on your screen, these exact numbers are a little bit outdated, but the percentages are still the same. We spend about half of our tax money every single year on the military. And if you look on your left-hand side, we only spend about 3% on Social Security funding from the general tax fund. We only spend about 6% from the general tax fund on Medicare and health. So if we could spend half of it on the military, we should be able to spend a little more on Social Security and Medicare. But guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. This is exactly what Democrats like Bernie Sanders and President Biden are fighting for. Now let's discuss really briefly what's included in President Biden's budget plan. Then we're going to talk about Social Security benefits, the increase that's included, and how that's going to affect your monthly benefits. Now, this budget is really detailed, so in this video, I'm just going to stick to the highlights. I'm going to make another video that goes really deep into detail, but for this video, let's just quickly cover an overview, which does include the American Jobs Plan. Again, that's mostly infrastructure, but it does have a couple of things that will benefit seniors. First of all, they want to put $400 billion in senior care, which includes home health care and clinic care as well, providing a lot more care for seniors. A lot of people are on a wait list. This would try to eliminate that wait list. It also wants to include funding for affordable housing. So providing more affordable housing and more funding for people who need to live there would actually help provide a better quality of life, as well as help pay that monthly rent payment, not only for seniors, but also anybody basically who qualifies for these vouchers. Now, the second stimulus package, of course, is the American Families Plan. And the cornerstone of this package is those monthly checks for families who have kids, either $250 or $300 per month. Now, if this gets approved, it's honestly going to set a really strong precedent to approve monthly stimulus for Social Security as well. If you guys remember, Democrats promised a $200 per month boost for Social Security. That has still not come to fruition, but if we have families getting monthly checks, it's going to make it a lot easier to argue that seniors need monthly checks as well. So that's really good news, and Democrats honestly could still push to include Social Security benefits in this next American Family Stimulus package. Again, this is just the outline, and Democrats can still add or subtract things. We do think that some Democrats like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, they might actually push to increase either a monthly stimulus for seniors or just a general increase in monthly Social Security benefits. So of course, guys, there is a lot more in this budget proposal, specifically an increase in Social Security funding. But before we jump into that, let's talk about how Biden plans to pay for this. Now, obviously, Biden wants to increase taxes. Let's watch a quick video highlighting Joe Biden's plan to increase taxes. Then we're going to discuss the impact this might have on Social Security benefits.
Some really important news here, especially for investors, because that it relates to the capital gains tax and, of course, the timing of that. Now, Biden has proposed increasing that tax from 23.8% to 43.4%. The big question was when it would take effect. And in fact, the administration proposing it would be retroactive to April 28th, which means that if you had hoped to sell something, assets, whether it's stock, a home, a business, in advance of that increase, to avoid the increase that maybe would have started next year, you're out of luck if you sold any time after April 28th or plan to. This, of course, would raise a lot of revenue. They estimate around $330 billion when you combine it with the elimination of step-up. They also gave some pretty startling increases for what the corporate taxes would raise. If you look at the top rate for corporations going from 21 to 28%, combining that with what they would impose on overseas income, that would raise $2 trillion. So again, we're talking about a $2 trillion increase on what companies pay in taxes. And on the individual side, when you combine the top rate going back up to 39.6, as well as the capital gains changes, they're talking about $300 billion over 10 years. So a lot of numbers here to get through, but the important thing for investors is Biden is proposing to make this capital gains increase retroactive to April 28th. And they did that, they said, because they remembered what happened in 1986 when Reagan increased capital gains. We had a huge selling in advance of that increase. They had big revenue before the tax increase took effect, and then the revenue was cut in half for the following year. This administration clearly hoping to avoid that by starting it on April 28th.
So 90% of these tax increases will go to the top 5% of income earners, and anyone who makes less than $400,000 per year will not have their taxes increased at all. Now, that capital gains tax for stock sales only applies to people who make $1 million per year or more, so most likely that tax would not affect you. Altogether, these taxes would create trillions of dollars in funding. And I just want to remind you guys that that $200 per month stimulus boost for Social Security only cost about $160 billion. So if we're going to raise trillions of dollars in taxes, we could afford to do that $200 per month stimulus boost for Social Security benefits. Now, how will these taxes impact Social Security? Well, they could use those general tax increases to include a stimulus for Social Security, but they cannot use that to actually increase Social Security benefits because Social Security itself can only be funded directly by that Social Security tax. And Biden promised on the campaign trail to increase Social Security tax specifically for anyone making over $400,000 per year and use that money to fund an increase in monthly benefits as well as expanding benefits for widows, seniors who have been on benefits for 20 years or more, and those who are low income to make sure they get at least 125% of the federal poverty level. The good news is, in his budget, President Biden did include a double in the funding for Social Security over the next 10 years. So between 2020 and 2030, the overall funding for Social Security would double just in those 10 years. Now, of course, with it doubling in 10 years, we would expect that a large chunk of that would go to your monthly benefits, but he did not outline exactly how much your benefits would increase. It seems he's going to leave that up to Congress. But the good news is we do have a plan from Biden to double the funding that would go to Social Security. So we could expect a substantial increase in monthly payments. That is, if you're doubling the funding, you should be able to probably double your monthly payments, if not somewhat significantly increase them, right? The bad news is we have to wait and see what Congress has to say, what exactly their plan will be, as well as the fact that he still did not propose his Social Security tax for people who make over $400,000 per year. He actually left that out of this budget. So some people say that Biden is not keeping his word. Others say that Biden wants to do these tax increases in chunks in order to get this done, with Democrats like Joe Manchin opposing tax increases. If he does too many increases at once, nothing is going to get done. So some people think he's actually going to save this for next year. So obviously next year would be entirely ridiculous, but if we have to wait that long, I'm hoping we at least get a $200 per month stimulus boost, kind of as a bridge to hold you over until Social Security benefits are increased in general. But guys, with that said, this is just Joe Biden's proposal. Democrats in the House and Senate will have to negotiate the details and see exactly what comes to fruition. So we should have a lot of updates. Don't forget to subscribe. I will keep you posted on the next two stimulus packages, Social Security changes, and the next federal budget as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting my work. It truly means the world. So until the next video, take care and have a great day.